Hello and welcome back to another episode of Go to Australia TV show. Thanks for watching our previous episodes and thanks for providing us with your feedback on social media. Thanks for subscribing to our YouTube channel and for following us on Instagram and Facebook. In this episode, we're going to talk about Australian student visas. And at the end of the program, we're going to have a special guest who is a student and wants to ask us a few questions about Australian student visas. So let's begin. So why to get a visa? In our previous programs, we explained that if you wanted to go to another country, you need to get a visa. And we explained how to get Australian visas and different options that you've had so far. So if you watch and go and watch the previous programs, you will see some other options. But today we're going to talk about Australian student visas and what's the benefits of having Australian student visa. Why should we get an Australian student visa? How to get it, and so far. So let's talk about Australian student visa in more details. When you get Australian student visa, obviously the best and the most benefit you receive is to participate or to undertake studies in Australia in a very advanced and well-known country, high-rank universities, beautiful environment, and so on. So the main thing you need to do, or you will get from being an Australian student visa, is to study in Australia. When you get your Australian visa, you can include your family members so they can come with you, or they can come and join you later on and they apply later on as a subsequent entrant. Your family members are usually your spouse and your children, dependent children. But if you are a child and you want to come and study here as a school student, obviously you can have one of your parents here come with you as a guardian. You can apply for student visas online, which is quite easy, and this can be done inside Australia or onshore, or outside Australia, which we call it offshore. So it's an easy process, online application, and go on. When you get your visa, obviously you can come and study or participate in your studies, the course for which you have enrolled. You can travel in and out Australia frequently, as many times as you wish. Basically, there is no limit on travel. And you can work in Australia. Depending on the course you are undertaking, you may be able to work full-time or part-time, maximum 40 hours per fortnight, or full-time. How long you can stay in Australia? Obviously, it depends on the length of your studies, but the maximum you can stay on a student visa in Australia is 5 years. If you need to stay longer, you need to look into finding other options. But if you are a school student, primary school student, between year 1 to 4, you can only study in Australia for 2 years. And after that, again, if there are other options, you can look into finding other options. Is there an age limit on student visas? Yes, there is. If you want to come here as a school student, primary school student, you need to be age 6 and over. So you cannot come here on a student visa if you're under 6. But there is no upper limit age for student visas. For example, if you're 45 or 50 years old and you want to come here and study, you can still apply for Australian student visas, and depending on your situation, you may be granted a student visa. But there are some further limits for secondary school students. As you would see here, you must be less than 17 years old when you apply or when you begin your year 9. You must be 18 years old when you begin your year 10, and so on. It goes to year 11 and year 12. So there are some age limits which you need to consider before you make a visa application. Okay, So how to get Australian student visas? The first thing you need to do is to enroll in a approved course. You must make sure that the course you apply for is registered in Australia, and the link for this registration can be found on Australian Department of Immigration website. So the first thing is to get enrollment or COE for an approved course. You need to make welfare arrangements if you are under 18. So you need to make sure there is someone to look after you if your parent is not coming with you as a guardian. You need to have enough funds to come to Australia. You need to show that you are able to pay for your school fees and your living fees. You need to have some level of English. Basically, you need to meet some English requirements. If your main or mother tongue language is not English, you need to pass some tests. Depending on the course you're undertaking, you might be required to have a certain level of English. This is not compulsory, but in many cases the department would prefer if you have some level of English. You need to have health insurance in place. As a student, you need to always be covered by a health insurance. Obviously, there are times that Australia has certain ties with some countries, and the social Medicare system in your home country could be applied in Australia as well. But if not, you need to get private health insurance, which is called overseas health cover in Australia. One of the very important, or probably say one of the main criteria to meet before you being granted a student visa is to show the department that you are a genuine temporary entrant applicant. By this I mean that you want to show the department that your only intention is to study in Australia. And probably this is one of the main reasons many visas are being refused. If a case officer or the delegate finds out that you are not a genuine temporary entrant, they may refuse your visa. So you need to show by evidence and prove that your only intention is to study in Australia. Finally, you also need to meet the criteria, we call it health and character. You need to undertake some medical examinations, and you need to show police clearance from your home country. This is a requirement that in many cases the department will ask you to follow. Okay then, that was it, my part for explaining Australian student visas. As I said earlier, we have a special guest today who is a student in Australia, and she wants to ask a few questions about Australian student visas. So let's talk to her after a short break.
Welcome to Masala Theory Restaurant. Masala Theory is the perfect place for a casual lunch, a night out for a family dinner, or a friendly business meeting. At Masala Theory, we believe that traditional Indian cuisine deserves a new twist that appeals to all five senses with our signature dishes made with love. These fun little dishes are truly the best food India has to offer. Come to our cozy neighborhood and savor the local flavor from across the globe.
Choice, not chance, makes destiny.
Okay, welcome back to the show, to Go to Australia show. As I said earlier, we have Yuan, who is a student at Sydney University. She's in the studio and she wants to ask me some questions about Australian visas, student visas. Thank you for coming to the show, Yuan.
Thank you.
I know that you have some questions to ask me about Australian student visas. Please go ahead.
Thanks for having me here, Dr. Ahmadi. So my first question is, what is the benefit of being a student in Australia?
Look, there are many benefits, and to start with, the main one is Australia provides the best education, or one of the best education systems in the world. We have very high-ranked universities in Australia. The top 8 universities in Australia usually are amongst the best universities in the world, and some of them even amongst the top 50. So that's the first to start with. Australia is a multicultural society, so people enjoy coming here and being with different cultural people from other cultures. Australia has perfect weather, and people who love weather will love Australia. And obviously during your study in Australia you can work. That's something that not many countries offer. And obviously after you complete your study you have other options that you can stay here longer or even permanently if you wish.
Sure. Regarding to work, how many work hours I'm allowed to have as a student?
It all depends on what visa or what major or degree you're undertaking. For example, if you're taking a bachelor degree course, you're allowed to work 40 hours per fortnight, every 2 weeks. But if you, let's say you're doing a PhD in Australia or a master degree by research, you can work full-time during your studies.
Thank you. And what is the possibility if I want to become a PR after I graduate?
To get permanent residency, obviously you need to, like people who are overseas, you need to have a skill or occupation on the skill occupation list. This is the best pathway for many students. They go through this as long as their occupation is on the list. If not, they need to either find an employer or find other options to stay here. But there are other options, so they don't have to go to permanent residency right away.
Okay, so what are they?
The other options, for example, we have a visa called subclass 485. This is a what we call a graduate visa. And this is, let's say if you've taken a 2 years course in Australia and completed your studies, you can stay here for another 2 years on a graduate visa or subclass 485 visa. If you have undertaken a PhD degree, and which is usually 3 to 4 years, you can stay here on a graduate visa for 4 years. So during these 2 or during these 4 years, you can look into exploring other options to stay here longer or stay here permanently.
All right. And during my study, what if my family want to visit me?
Look, everyone can come to Australia on a visitor visa as long as they are genuine in their or their intention is to only stay here temporarily. Being a student in Australia would help friends or family members to come and visit you because the government will see this, yes, a genuine case, and they usually issue them or grant them visas easier.
Yep. Next question is, what if I wanted to run my own business or buy properties in Australia?
Look, you can, obviously you can buy a property, you can buy a business, run your own business in Australia, and as long as working in your business doesn't interfere with your studies, let's say in terms of the work limit you have, you can do whatever you want.
Sure. Last but not least, what is my obligation as a student in Australia?
As a student, you need to show that you're enrolled in your courses of studies at all time. Even if you complete one degree and want to go to the next, you need to make sure that there aren't a big gap in between. Usually we say it's 2 months maximum between the courses. If you change your course, you need to let the Department of Immigration know, or your university should notify them. If you want to extend your stay, you need to apply in advance. Don't let your visa expire, and make sure you comply with the expiry and with the visa conditions, because this is a common mistake. Many people don't know their visa has expired, then they realize it, and sometimes it's a bit too late to get a new visa. If it is within 28 days, obviously there are options, but if it's more than 28 days after the expiry of your visa, it's going to be very difficult to stay here. So please be careful with the date, the expiry date of your visa, and make sure you either leave Australia before the expiry date or apply for other visas to stay here longer.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's all my questions.
Oh, that's good. If that's it for you, I have a couple of questions for you.
Go for it.
First one, have you enjoyed your stay in Australia so far? I know you've been here for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. As a student in University of Sydney, I enjoy the academic environment at my uni, and no one judges you by your look or your nationalities, where you come from. People just very friendly and very welcome. I enjoy the multiculturalism, and the weather is pretty good. I love to go to Bondi Beach and enjoy beers and barbecues with my friend.
Oh, that's good. You've had similar experience to what I had about 18 years ago when I came here on a student visa myself, and that's to be honest, this is the best part. Australia, it's not just a place to study, it's a place to live, and people love it when they come here. But my final question or last question is, have you watched any episode of this program, and do you think it's a good thing, this show that we're running?
I reckon it definitely is. I've watched a few episodes from Go to Australia before, and I loved it. Compared to go through all the documents and reading the text from the internet, this is just way much more easier and clearer to understand. And your explanation is amazing, making everything more clear. Thank you very much for your explanation and your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and honest feedback.
Pleasure.
Yeah, that was it. This is the end of this show. Thank you for watching the program. Thank you for watching previous episodes and leaving feedback and comments for us. Please continue following us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to YouTube channels and leave feedback so we know how to make it a better program for you. Thanks again. Thanks, Johan, for coming to the studio.
Yeah.
And hopefully you enjoy the rest of staying in Australia and you stay here permanently.
Thank you.
See ya.
See you next time. Bye.